privilege for me to be here. I haven't been in this position here at the track in 10 years. I guess it's the 10th year that I left here 10 years ago, but it's a thrill for me because for many of those years I dealt with the two gentlemen here to my left, two of what I feel like is the greatest stock car ladies of all time, by far the best here at Darlington. Remembering back from 1968 to 1982, these guys won races every year. One of these guys won a race here at Darlington every year with the exception of 4 years. David Pearson actually swept the races here in 1976. It's ironic, Cale won his first Southern 500 in 1968. David finished second to it. So it took you, what, 8 years to get your first Southern 500 win. But between the two, 15 wins. 15 wins between the two. Cale's the only guy to win 5 Southern 500s. David won 10 races here, including 3 Southern 500s. So let's give these guys a round of applause just for being here today. But in 1968, David won the spring race here. Cale won the Southern 500. And guys, did you ever believe that back then, winning for the first time here, that over the years you would be able to reach such accolades? Cale, 5 Southern wins, just unprecedented.
Well, I had 5, Jeff Gordon tied me last year with 5 Southern 500 wins, but I won mine in 1968, which was on the old Darlington racetrack before they redid the racetrack. And I told Jeff that even though he had tied me with 5 Southern 500 wins, he was still way off the mark with not having won one on that old racetrack. As I'll tell you, David will vouch for me, I'm sure. That was the toughest racetrack in the world back before they. It's still tough, but it was really tough back then.
Yeah, it's nothing like it was back then, that's for sure. They've added, what?
Do you agree with me that Gordon's got something to go, not having one on
He got a bunch to go. The racetrack is what, 50 to 75 foot wider than it was then, but they cut it down on the inside, so they give you a lot more room when you start in the corner. You can cut down lower and, drift up, so it made the corners a whole lot faster. In fact, before you had to run single file through the corners and pass up straightaway, or at least get up beside somebody at straightaway.
Was this one of the tracks that whenever you guys came to, I mean, I'm sure there were some that you felt like they were not your favorites. You probably wouldn't be as big of a contender at those facilities. But when you came here every time, did you feel like, I'm going to win this weekend?
Well, every time I come here, back then, you had to, practice 3 or 4 days before you even qualified. And it took all 3 or 4 days to get used to this track again. It wasn't just go out there and run a few laps like you can do now, and know exactly where you're going to run. And of course, I knew where I was going to run when I come back, but it took a while to get the groove where I wanted it so I could qualify.
As David said, this racetrack is nothing what it used to be by any means. And it took a lot of practice. You couldn't, like David said, you just couldn't come back here twice a year and get going right off the bat. It took a lot of practice, a lot of time on this racetrack.
I know both of you guys have had a lot of experience here since it's sort of become the new Darlington. Cale, just a few weeks ago, you gave some track rides in a race car to the media. David, you've done a David Pearson riding experience here for years and also did something last year with Carl Everett. So can you guys, when you get out there, can you sort of feel the big difference as to what it used to be?
Well, it's nothing like it used to be. It's like David said a while ago, it was single file through the corners, through what used to be 3 and 4, what is 1 and 2 now, and you had to drive that thing. There was an old metal guardrail, and you drove in there till that car broke loose, and you tapped that guardrail all the way around, all the way through 3 and 4, till you got on the back stretch, and just hoping you didn't tap it too hard, but you could feel that bumper. That's where the Darlington strike came from. You could feel it all the way through the corner.
David?
Well, he's telling the truth there. Of course, that was really the fastest way around the racetrack. When I first come here, I went out and I'd run, and I wouldn't get close to it. And of course, I wouldn't run fast enough. And when I finally got fast enough that I slid up against it, I thought I tore the whole side of the car off. And I come in, just had 2 little stripes on it from the guardrail. And I said, well, this ain't going to be as bad as I thought it was. But I run a whole lot faster when I did that. So then we started putting 2x4s and pipes and everything else. in the side of the car so that the quarter panels and fenders wouldn't go in and hit the wheels, you know. So that was a normal thing. You just go up there and let it hit it and go on.
Keep on going. Who's the best at Darlington? Which one
What do
is
you
the
mean?
best? Who's the best?
Yeah, I already asked you that.
Cale, what's your answer to that?
I'll have to listen. David won 10, I only won 5, so I think that speaks for itself.
David
I
does.
always had a lot of trouble in, you know, I never won the spring race, and David, he ran, he could win about all the spring races, but for some reason I'd blow up or something every spring. So had good luck in the 500.
Let's open up some questions. Jimmy Mack?
You know, now they talk about the Darlington stripe, and the Darlington stripe now is a mistake. Back then it was a strategy. How hard was it for you both of you guys, the first time you did that, to muscle yourself up enough to hit that wall?
Well, it's like I said, I always run away from it, you know, when I first come here. And I wouldn't run fast enough. Well, I'd slow up, I guess. I'd probably run half a second quicker after I did hit the wall, you know, go up and rub the guardrail. But right now, you don't really do that because that wall, if you go up against the head, it more or less sticks to it. It's not like the guardrail. The guardrail would give a little bit, and of course, quarter pounders and stuff would give, and you could just keep on going. But right now, you get against that wall, it's hard to get away from it.
You know, I felt like David did first few times around here, and trying to stay off of that wall. You know, 'cause you just knew if you hit it, you're gonna tear it across all the pieces. But like David said, after you did it, you found out well you could do it and get away with it, and that was the way if you was gonna win here and you're gonna run good here, that's what you had to do.
Ed Hinton?
Ed Hinton, ESPN.com. Cale, people still talk about the time the old lady in black threw you clear out in the parking lot. Can you kind of talk about what was going through your mind when you were sailing out in the parking lot? I guess it was off, what we used to call turn 1, was it not? And what year was it?
Well, it's 1965. I was driving for Banjo Matthews, and you know I was young, and there was another young driver called Sam McQuagg coming up. We were both doing good. And Sam and I had been racing together for quite a while there, and I was trying to get around him, and finally coming down the front stretch, I got up far enough beside him that I thought he'd back off and let me go, but he didn't. But you know, I'm going to break in just a minute. I just parked over there in the media parking, right where I went over the guardrail. I got my son-in-laws and grandkids with me here today, and they wanted to know, Granddad, is that where you went over the wall? And that's where we're parked right now. But I told them that they had filled that thing in quite a bit since I went over there, because it was about 3 times as high as it was back then. But Sam and I got tangled up, and my car just got airborne for some reason and went over the hood of Sam's car and completely over the guardrail. I never touched the guardrail, and you know I was still driving that thing. I was trying my best to drive it, but when I looked down and I saw grass, I knew I was in trouble then, because I knew there wasn't no grass on that racetrack. But it was a hard lick. It was far down that hill on the other side.
But didn't you come walking back up the bank and the crowd thought you might have been hurt or something? You just came walking back up?
Yeah, I came walking back up, but the car was completely destroyed except right where I was sitting. And as soon as it stopped outside of a telephone pole out there in the parking lot, or a light pole, whatever it was. And I crawled out and crawled back up there. I figured maybe a long time before ambulance ever got there. So as far out as I was, so I crawled back up the bank and walked back in.
Over on the left, Monty.
This is something where I guess I'm going to be seen as a troublemaker, but I've already written it, so here's what I don't understand. Why is this, when Gordon won on Mother's Day 2 years ago, that was not counted as a victory, but because this just has the name Southern 500, it would be his. In other words, it seems like to me that the race is not on Labor Day, and it's in the spring, which is when the Rebel was. So it seems like to me that just because they named it this race, the Southern 500,